So first I'm going to go over the score manager. The score manager is very similar to the one that was showcased. We have different values for the points and the requirements for the spider distances. We have a queue of commands. This is a singleton, so we have our instance, score events right here, add score, send score, the very basic stuff. Next, we have a command score, which is the base command that is sent in. We have execute and we have take position. Take position is only used for the distance, but execute is used for them all. So looking at the command distance, we have all of these values, and when we're initialized, we set them up. We have other position, which is basically just the ship's position that we get from the player manager. As you can see, take position, we receive the position of the spider itself. And then we get the position of the ship, we find the distance between them, and we compare the distance to our values near, mid, and far. And then we add in the appropriate score. So moving into the command value, this is a flat points, and once it's executed, it just adds in that number of points. So the text itself, when we get a score command, we have a switch to find out which kind of command to return. For adding the score, we write to the console just to confirm that we are indeed adding the score, and then we tell the player manager to add the points to the appropriate player. These are simply the non-private functions, and then private process score goes through our queue of commands and pops them all one by one. So that's the score manager. And while we're here, let's talk about the sound manager. It is very similar to the score manager. We have a parent sound play, execute and pause. Repeat has a simple, it both plays and stops the sound. If we want to execute or pause it, we simply use these. For sound single, we only really use execute, pause does not do anything. Now the sound manager itself. I was not able to use a strategy pattern for the sound manager. My muting is done differently, which I will show very soon. Mute and unmute is there. We have process sounds. We have the volume for to set all the sounds at, because setting them at the default sound is deafening, and we know whether we're muted or not. We also have all of the sounds within the sound manager, so that we don't repeat the sounds, we simply repeat the commands. Moving into the file itself, we set the appropriate buffer, we set loops for the appropriate sounds, and we set the volumes for each of them. Get sound command is very similar to the score manager in that we have a switch comparing each of them. Playing sound or stopping sound puts into the appropriate queue. In processing sounds, first we will go through all of the commands that pause the sound, and then we will go through all the commands that start the sound. Now, for our mute function, we don't change anything about the commands. We simply set the volume of each of the each sound to 0 or to the base volume. As I said, I didn't manage to implement the strategy pattern, and this is just a simple hack. It has its flaws, but for the most part, it works pretty fine. So, those are the sound and score managers.